What makes a city skyline Jewish? Is it that it should have lots of Jewish people in it? Should it be built by Jews? Does its mother wish it would become a doctor instead of watching Cities Skylines YouTube all day? Hey everyone, Mike from Shukaboa here, and today I'm playing the 2015 classic city building video game Cities Skylines, as part of the long-running Skyline6 multiplayer collaboration. This season's theme is European Adventure. In my first round, I made a Greek-inspired city, which you should watch along with all the rest of the builds. If you like that, we've got 2 other seasons as well, definitely worth binge watching and getting tons of ideas for your own builds. And we've got some outstanding builders coming after this video as well. Okay, Shukaboa, tell them about the video. Okay, Tevye. With our European adventure theme this season, I thought it would be more than appropriate to add in some Jewish flavor to our build so far. And what image of Eastern European Yiddishkeit is more typical, or even stereotypical, than the Shtetl of the old country? What? You don't know much about the Shtetl? Well, why should you? Don't worry, I'll explain what the hell I'm talking about as we enter this carefully crafted time capsule. After all, as the good book says,
yes, when a poor man eats a chicken, one of them is sick.
Where does the book say that?
All right. It doesn't exactly say that, but someplace it has something about a chicken. Good Sabbath.
So here is our little village of Anatevka, named for the beloved fictional Shtetl from the musical Fiddler on the Roof. It's got everything you need for some serious Shtetl-core nostalgia. Sure, it's no big Tel Aviv skyline, but it's got all the ingredients necessary to recreate this now lost urban phenomenon that remains in our collective memory. So what is a Shtetl exactly? Shtetl literally translates as little city and can be loosely defined as a small or medium-sized town comprised mostly of Jews located within the Pale of Settlement, a large area of Eastern Europe under Imperial Russian control where their Jewish subjects were required to live. For centuries, there were very oppressive laws that limited where Jews could live, what they could do for work, and periods of coexistence with their Gentile neighbors were often shattered by violent pogroms. Despite that, Jewish culture thrived and evolved in the Shtetl, and many of its legacies have spread across the entire world. In case you are wondering, yes, I am a Jew, and much of my own family emigrated from the old country to New York City at the turn of the 20th century. Since our Skyline6 is building in Europe this time, I figured I'd recreate this little homage to my own recent ancestry. We Jews are an ethno-religious people, which is a singularly adjectival way of saying that our ethnicity as Jews and our religion of Judaism are technically separate, but inseparably intertwined into a common peoplehood, if that makes any sense. In this Shtetl, as in every other Jewish community in the world, these two aspects will blend with harmony and friction on every street. This is our modest synagogue, or shul. Shul literally means school in the Yiddish language, although this is far from the only place you'll receive an education in the Shtetl. The building itself was fun to make, and the design is pretty simple, using this industrial evolution asset as the main structure, this university city house for the entryway, and a good old-fashioned vanilla industrial tank on top for the dome. Put 2 enlarged exhaust fan number 2 props on each side here just to finish it off. Now, in all honesty, this shul is probably just a little too fancy for a small Shtetl like this. Life in the Shtetl was hard, and the people were mostly poor. A large shul would almost have certainly been a wooden structure without such a nice dome like this. However, there is a church or cathedral in just about every other town that we've built on this map, including in my Greek build, and there's no synagogue yet, so I figured if I was going to put one in, it should at least be a little nice. This design is definitely more like something you'd find in a larger city or town rather than a small, poor Shtetl such as this. Traditionally, I've added a synagogue somewhere in every single season of Skyline 6.
You may ask, How did this tradition get started? I'll tell you. I don't know. But it's a tradition.
In the last episode of Skyline6, Joy Built Cities created a leisure district called Friday Nights. You can see it right here. Looks pretty cool. But if we head back over to our town, if you know me very well, you'll know that on Friday nights, you'll probably find me in shul. So let's put down this European elementary school that says shula on it. That's close enough for me. Now let's set up for our... For a long time, there had been a large Jewish population. And I wanted to represent that since we have a church on the other side, we have a mosque over here. I wanted to put a little Jewish community with a synagogue right here. And, you know, we got some marketplaces. It's not like, I don't think it would have been a closed Jewish quarter like you find in Catholic Spain after the Alhambra, right? But I added just a little wall next to it just in case, right? To give the idea that this is a little bit separate. On this hill just behind the shul, you can find the court, called a Beit Din, which is Hebrew for House of Judgment. This is a rabbinical system in use since ancient times. In the Beit Din, all matters of communal and religious law are dealt with, including things like issuing certifications, granting divorces, or even arbitrating disputes over money. Rabbinical Judaism is based upon legal jurisprudence, so the court system has always been very important. Over here we find the Beis Midrash, Hebrew for House of Study. In a hall like this, you'd find students studying and heatedly debating all types of Jewish religious and scholarly texts. Places like these in the Shtetl fostered the creation of a revived yeshiva movement, which in turn strengthened the Orthodox and Hasidic streams of Judaism as a response to the liberal Haskalah movement taking place across Europe. Down closer to the river, I put this house to serve as the Mikveh. A mikveh is a ritual bathhouse used by Jews for a variety of religious purification reasons. Now, I'm not going to get into all those reasons in this video, just know that these buildings are considered more fundamental to creating a Jewish community than even a synagogue is, as these bathhouses have existed since the ancient times and are required for several important aspects of Jewish law and practice. Here is the cemetery, called a Beis Olam, from Hebrew meaning the house of the world, in parentheses, to come, aka the house of the afterlife. The Shtetl community would have an established burial society known as a Chevra Kadisha to provide free services and ensure that the burials are done in accordance with Jewish law. In addition to Judaic religious significance, cemeteries also provide important genealogical information today, now that many of these communities no longer exist. Unfortunately, Jewish cemeteries across Europe are still subject to frequent vandalization and destruction, even today. In order to create the graves, I use these mid-century modern deck number 1 props, and for the headstones, these air conditioner props and the Railroad of Japan signal equipment props. Just page down them a little bit, have them sink in, and it looks pretty good. Hey, since I'm talking about props and stuff, please allow me to show you what custom assets are used in this build. This definitely isn't my most technical work I've ever done, but I still limit the custom assets to just these 5. The first 3 are these Skyline6 European Adventure Billboard, made by Brad Blaze Cities, the Shukaboa and Skyline6 custom flags made by Teddy Radko, both of whom are guest builders in this season. The next 2 assets are a cluster of bushes and a leafy farm bush. These are part of our very short asset list, which is linked in the description if you're curious to see. Here we have the cheder, from the Hebrew word for room, which was basically like an elementary school. It might even be in the teacher's actual home. Some shtetlik had only 1 cheder for boys, and others might have more, including chedrim for girls. There would be some religious schooling here as part of the curriculum, but also some secular topics as well. In front of our shul, we have the Mark, the marketplace, a hustling, vibrant scene where merchants and artisans would sell their wares, and not just to Jews from the Shtetl. Many non-Jews would also come from neighboring cities and towns to shop amongst the Jewish merchants here, who were societally poised to be the intermediaries between rural and urban population centers. Here we have the Hekdesh, a Hebrew word for sacred place, which was a common feature in Shtetl. These buildings were meant for charitable purposes, such as taking care of the sick and the poor, or for hosting travelers with nowhere else to stay. serving an important role in the community. The butcher, or shochet in Hebrew, is an extremely important position in an observant Jewish community. Second in status only to a learned rabbi, the butcher spends many years studying Jewish law regarding kosher slaughter and meat preparation, which is considerably complex to say the least. In the musical Fiddler on the Roof, the shochet Lazar Wolf has undoubtedly the most unintentionally gangster name in the Shtetl, and also is considered a wealthy man by Shtetl standards. The theater. Der Theater. I use the vanilla Zenitor sign as a way to highlight this building as a theater building. Yiddish culture in and out of the Shtetl was extraordinarily expressive and rich, and this contributed to a vibrant theatrical scene that exploded all across Europe. Scholars date the start of professional Yiddish theater to the 1870s. However, in the Russian Empire, it was officially banned in 1883. Which created an exodus of Yiddish actors and playwrights to other countries like Poland and the United States. Of course, this entire Shtetl is based upon Anatevka, which you might recognize from the hit Broadway musical Fiddler on the Roof. Another building that might be out of place in our poor little Shtetl, but nonetheless deserves to be included, is what I've called the Yiddish Post. I've mentioned the word Yiddish quite a few times already, but maybe you don't know exactly what that really is. Yiddish is a very old Judeo-Germanic language that has existed and evolved for about 1,000 years. For most of history, Jews across Europe were almost always societally excluded, and frequent forced migrations from place to place were common. This language became the mother tongue, the Mamalochen of the Jews of Central and Eastern Europe, even if it lacked social prestige.
Amor, als ik arbeid weer in stoer een weerreich.
Wie reich?
Zo reich, als ik zo opsel in mijn eigen met zijn.
It was the glue that held all these far-flung communities together. So using this German Weiterdorfer Post prop actually translates perfectly fine into Yiddish. And it even makes sense contextually with our build since this is a remote village. Some of my own family history is preserved in postcards written in Yiddish from the old country addressed to my relatives in New York City. Yiddish newspapers began to flourish in the mid to late 1800s despite various attempts to restrict their publication, and Yiddish literature became a vehicle for both increasingly religious Hasidic views and increasingly liberal Haskalah views to spread among the islands of Jewish life across Europe. So I added this building to represent the published Yiddish language, which has had an outsized impact on Jewish culture to this day. Let's talk about the farming. For most of the period of the Pale of Settlement, Jews were prohibited from being agriculturalists, and farmland was kept by Gentiles. Here I've placed some farming areas under the agriculture zone Anatevka written in Cyrillic characters. We have cattle, horses, and a large wheat field. Over in this corner, we have a cabbage field, and on this other side of the Shtetl, there is beekeeping and honey production. In the Shtetl, some Jewish households have small subsistence crops for personal use. Because the Shtetl is surrounded by non-Jewish agricultural holdings, it would prevent the expansion of the district, and over time, a Shtetl like this would become very dense and overcrowded as the population grew, but was otherwise limited in where they could move to. Right between the tracks and the highway, I've written Anatevka in Yiddish using some hedge props, just in case you get lost. And from the highway, I've added this roundabout, which I've called the KINEHORA circle. KINEHORA is the Yiddish equivalent phrase of knock on wood, and is paired with this common eye talisman to ward off the evil eye that you'll find in all Eastern Mediterranean cultures. I'm absolutely positive the comments section of this video will be completely normal, KINEHORA. the Shtetl of the Old Country occupies a special place in Jewish collective memory. The phenomenon of the imagined Shtetl as some kind of harmonious community that preserved a traditional way of life is a theme of Ashkenazi culture. This is not always what the reality was, of course, nor was it representative of Jewish life outside the pale. But because of the violent pogroms at the turn of the century, the cultural upheaval following the Bolshevik Revolution, and the nearly total annihilation of not just the Jews of the Shtetl, but all of the many diverse European Jewish populations during the Holocaust, the imagined Shtetl is all that's left. The pre-war Jewish population of Europe was about 9.5 million people. Today, there are only 1.5 million Jews living in all of the European countries combined, including me in Portugal. With 750 million Europeans in total, Jews make up less than 0.25% of the European population. Globally, there are still less Jewish people alive than before the Holocaust. Our story is a complex and sometimes controversial one, but with so few of us in existence, it's very likely you'll be hearing some version of our story from someone else. I'm happy to use our European adventure theme to recreate a small part of my own family story and share it with you. If you want to discuss any further, just hit me up in the Skyline6 shared Discord server, City of Friends. Many stories told are sad ones, but despite that, we all want to share and live the happy ones. So, as the good book says, Teddy Radko is up next in Skyline 6. Don't forget to check out all the builders and catch up on the playlist. Much of this video references Fiddler on the Roof, which, if you've never seen, is a must-watch. Thank you, gracias, obrigado, merci, adank, and toda rabah. As always, I'll see you next time.